Ireland, 1930, 14 years after the War of Independence and 7 years after the Irish Civil War. Both events caused massive damage to the country's infrastructure and certainly didn't help the young nation's finances. Hospitals particularly suffered. Years of chronic neglect and underinvestment left most hospitals under-resourced and close to collapse. But the country was poor and the government simply did not have the financial resources to help. Enter Richard Duggan, a bookie, Captain Spencer Freeman, a military engineer of great organising skills, and Joe McGrath, an ex-IRA fighter from the War of Independence and later government minister. They proposed to set up a sweepstake to help fund the hospitals, and amazingly, the government agreed. Now, if you're not familiar with the concept of a sweepstake, it's quite simple. You buy a ticket and are assigned a random horse in an upcoming race. If your horse wins or places, you win a proportion of the prize fund. So in late 1930, the Irish Hospitals Sweepstakes, more commonly known as the Irish Sweeps, were launched. The first chosen race was the Manchester November Handicap. The sweeps draw took place in the Mansion House, Dublin, home of the Lord Mayor, who also oversaw the draw. 2 boys from a local school for the blind were drafted in to draw the tickets. It was all very stage managed, and the world's press were in attendance. A total of 415,000 Irish pounds was raised in ticket sales. The top prize was just over £200,000, and that's about 15 million euros in today's money. The promoters took 46,000 for profit and admin, and hospitals got £131,798. The rest went on smaller prizes. Of course it was popular. Huge life-changing jackpots were on offer. Even the smaller prizes could change lives. The organisers immediately decided to hold another sweep just 4 months later, with the Grand National as the chosen race. Sweeps were held every few months, and they became very elaborate stage-managed affairs. For example, dozens of workers would spend days mixing tickets and baskets. There was no need for this, there were machines that could do that, but it was all for show. The draws themselves were stretched to take place over several days, just to ramp up the tension and drama. Nurses in uniform were brought in to draw the tickets. The organisers could count on the presence of the Chief Commissioner of the An Garda Síochána, the Irish Police, to be present at each draw, to lend it an air of credibility. Elaborate artwork would adorn the huge submarine-like draw drum. Care was lavished on the design of the tickets. They were made to look like real currency and would feature Celtic artwork and the image of an elegant Irish woman. Everything about the marketing and operation of the sweeps was hyped up in such a way that even P.T. Barnum would not fail to be impressed. It was incredibly popular, not just in Ireland but around the world, particularly in the US, Canada and the UK. So much so that the sweeps even got a mention in the 1950s sitcom I Love Lucy, and the sweeps even featured as a central plot point in the 1935 feature film The Winning Ticket. But the problem was that it was all a bit of a scam. Firstly, the population of Ireland was too low to make the sweeps worthwhile, so the organisers had no choice but to sell the tickets globally. The problem with that was that many countries, especially the US and Canada, frowned upon gambling like this and put measures in place to stop the sale and spread of tickets. For example, tickets could not be sent by the official postal services, and customs would actively seek to confiscate shipments of tickets or counterfoils being returned to Ireland. This wasn't a problem for the organisers. They arranged to deliver the tickets via other means, such as shipping the tickets as freight or having transatlantic passengers carry over suitcases full of tickets or counterfoils. This was easy to achieve, as many immigrants and their offspring were happy to help run the sweeps, as they believed they were helping their homeland, plus they were earning a nice little bit of commission on the sale of the tickets. Of course, the government of these countries wanted to intercept these tickets, and sometimes the sweep organisers would help them. Once a batch of tickets had been sold, the counterfoils with the purchaser's details had to be sent back to Ireland for inclusion in the draws. If someone were to tip off the authorities about where they might intercept such a batch, it was beneficial to the organisers, since it meant they got to keep the entry fee and could tell the entrant, "Sorry, the authorities took your ticket, nothing we can do." Another dodgy aspect was that because the organisers knew who had drawn tickets for favourite horses, they knew which tickets were more likely to win. So they would dispatch associates to approach these ticket holders, mostly poor people, and offer relatively small sums of cash to buy the tickets outright, or maybe buy a share in the ticket. This meant that the organisers, in other words the owners of the sweeps company, would not only profit from the sale of the ticket, they could dip into the winnings as well. But worst of all was the fact that the group for which the sweepstakes were set up to benefit, the hospitals, actually benefited the least from it. Over the course of the sweepstakes life, less than 10% of the takings went to hospitals, and they had to pay a 25% tax on what they got. The sweeps company played up the charitable nature of the operation, and it would be fair to say that most people assumed it was a charity. In reality, it was a business run for profit. The 1930 Act of Government allowing for the establishment of the sweeps was so full of loopholes and neglected any form of oversight or regulation that it effectively allowed the sweepstakes company to be a money-making machine for the founders. Now that being said, the hospitals did receive a huge sum of money. In the 1960s, Ireland had one of the best hospital systems in the world, all paid for, well, mostly paid for, by the sweeps. The fact that hospitals were so well funded from just 10% of the sweeps takings gives you an idea of how rich the founders got. The decline of the sweeps began in the 1960s when US states started running their own lotteries, no doubt having seen how lucrative the Irish sweeps were. As other nations followed suit, the sweeps lost much of their international customer base, and it became more of an Ireland-only thing. This, coupled with the fact that in its heyday the sweeps employed thousands of people and offered them generous pensions, meant that the amount of money going to hospitals kept dropping. In the 1970s, the government stepped in and started topping up the hospital's fund. The sweeps finally came to an end in 1986 when the last draw was held. And of course there was controversy surrounding this as well. After what turned out to be the final sweeps draw was held, the government refused to renew their licence to operate. Instead, it advertised for applications from companies that wished to operate the new national lottery, which was to start in 1987. The sweeps company bid for that licence, but the government instead awarded it to its own postal service, An Post. It was felt by many that the government had decided to both get rid of a company with some controversial history and to also eliminate the main competitor to the forthcoming national lottery. 150 people were made redundant as a result of this, and it took until the year 2000 for the government to compensate them for the way they were treated. The sweeps may have been controversial, but they certainly left their mark on Ireland and influenced the establishment of many lotteries and similar schemes around the world.